Oh, you actually clicked on the video. Well then, hello. I'm Malimeezy, or Mally, or whatever the hell you want to call me. I want to talk about a game that I've kind of forgot about in my childhood and I've recently finished as an adult. This is going to be an episodic series of videos from the past games in my childhood and given a sort of look back and review. Given the title screen! 2002 was a great year for gaming, with the release of Jet Set Radio Future, Elder Scrolls Morrowind, Super Mario Sunshine, Kingdom Hearts, Sly Cooper, and many other great games were released within the year. This would also lead to the release of Blinx the Time Sweeper. Developed by Artoon and published by Microsoft Studios, Blinx was made to rival game mascots such as Mario and Sonic. And with how much people talk about it today, it wasn't very popular. Now in terms of plot, there really isn't much, and there are literally only 2 cutscenes in the entire game, excluding the collectibles. The first in the very beginning going over what the world is, and the ending which I'll get into later. But to give a quick explanation of the plot, you play as Blinx, the smug son of a bitch right here. He is a worker in a time factory which creates times and delivers it to other worlds, which the other gates are here. The world is being taken over by tom-toms, which are pig-like guys, and turning people into time crystals, which are also turning into monsters. Blinx rushes headfirst into the world to rescue it along with Princess Lena, this girl here. Blinx, being a time sweeper, uses this to his advantage, and you are given these abilities. Rewind, which resets where enemies and structures of the world originally were. Fast forward, which I never really use much, you just move faster and you're given a shield to protect you while you're having this ability active. Pause, which is my favorite, just so I can make this joke. Record, you go into a mode where the next few seconds of your actions are recorded and then played back. It just takes away attention from enemies, as well as helping you solve some puzzles. And finally, slow. It's just slow down the world around you. Simple. No bullshit. Cute cat, wanna get the princess. What else do you want? Now, the game is played in stages. There being a total of 9, there are 3 normal levels, and a final boss for the area. The final stage being an exception, with only the final boss being the level. The names of the levels are going in order of appearance: Times Square, Deja Vu Canals, Hourglass Caves, Forgotten City, Temple of Lost Time, Mine of Precious Moments, Everwinter, Forge of Hours, and Momentopolis. The game does actually consist of collectibles. I personally like collectibles within a game. It's just a little extra for gameplay. There are 80 cat medals for the game in its entirety, earlier levels having 3 and later levels having 4. And what do you get for collecting them all? Well, this is what you get. Yeah, that's about it. Oh well, also you get this, the Perfect Sweeper. It sweeps sand, water, fire, all at an extreme speed, all at the low price of 90,000 gold. Yeah, it's not worth it, and you would really only get some use out of it for using it for the final boss, but even then, it really isn't that much of a help. Speaking of bosses, enemy design in the game is unique. The majority of the bosses are regular enemies with more of a unique set of attacks, and are usually just bigger. Not too many of the bosses are difficult and are somewhat easy until the later levels where you feel like they just cheat. And just to name a few enemies, you have the Dust Herders, Hinden Dig, Asshole, and... Jokes aside, the game enemies usually aren't too difficult, but what will usually happen is they just lock you in a room with 5+ enemies and say, fuck you, deal with it. And if you don't have any abilities, you're usually just boned. So, this portion of the video is going to sound like I'm complaining, and that's because I am. I was planning to separate the controls and the difficulty into 2 separate segments, but here, I'll just explain in this way. You have a dodge in this game. Personally, I'm all about dodge mechanics. Dark Souls' iframes? That's my shit. However, what's an important thing when it comes to dodge mechanics? I don't know, maybe that it fucking works? I know this is 2002 and 3D games were still a little rough, but I mean, when you instill a mechanic that's meant to keep the gameplay moving along and it just ends up putting you in more danger than you previously were, it's bullshit! Am I wrong in saying that? Moving on, it's a platformer. Difficulty and spikes in games like these aren't uncommon. In a lot of older games, it was meant to tell you that you were near the end of the game, or to help with balancing, just so you just didn't tear through the last bit of the game. I didn't really start grabbing health upgrades and sweeper upgrades until Everwinter, mostly because icy platformer levels are just... Blinx can trip on the ice. If it weren't already bad enough that the game makes you platform and fight enemies at the same time with slippery surfaces, the little fuck can fall over as well. He gets up slowly and putting you in danger. Speaking of danger, I just want to ask why when you collect a cluster of crystals, Blinx decides to do a little dance. You're completely left open for an attack unless you cancel the animation, which is just another bothersome thing you have to worry about. Really, the only bosses I had an issue with were the bosses for Forge of Hours and Everwinter. The final boss, however, is an entirely different story, so strap in! You need to go through a gauntlet of some of the previous bosses, which really isn't that bad besides... Then you're going to be given a break by given access to the shop, and the money that you got from the bosses you can use here for health items, sweepers, and ammunition. On the first couple of runs for the boss, I really didn't utilize the ammunition, but it really helps. Okay. Real quick, I want to talk about hints to help the player progress in games. So, I really like the tutorials for Dark Souls. It helps you get on your feet with as much trial and error that you need. There are traps in the game, and how do you know this? The wrecking ball that hits you in the very beginning. Some bosses you aren't strong enough to kill, so you gotta backtrack a bit, get better gear, upgrade your character, then come back. And boom, that's Dark Souls. You're able to figure it out from there through trial and error, and you can finish the game. However, the Chrono Horn, or Time Demon, I've seen several fucking names for this boss. So, the boss fight begins with him taking your abilities. This is fine, I could work with that. He then immediately spits bombs at you. I thought you could just shoot at him with the bombs to damage him, but no. Okay, so there are moments of vulnerability. I shoot him with his mouth open when he spits the bombs out? Okay, sweet. I did damage. Do this enough and you'll move on to the next stage. Oh, there's two of them now. Okay, no big deal. Wait for the mouth to open and shit. Okay, I hit the wrong one. Okay, I'll just wait to do it again and shoot both. I'll have to be fast enough. Now, this boss will use the same abilities that you have in the game, but he'll use it against you. From what I've seen, I've only used him use fast forward, pause, and slow. Fast forward is no big deal, you can dodge things pretty easily. However, slow is difficult to dodge anything, and pause is, well, you just need good timing in order to dodge anything. It's not crazy unfair, it just takes good timing. Okay, for the final phase, he isn't weak to any of your attacks. I've died and lost to this boss a lot, and I've only gotten to the final phase a handful of times. I've had a lot of trouble and couldn't figure out how to beat him. So it's the last phase and I'm so close. I hadn't used a guide all the way up until this point, and I finally cracked because I got my 5th game over. And there were very little helpful or detailed guides that I could find, so I had to watch someone else's playthrough, and you have to... What? So you're fucking telling me that throughout this long headache-inducing boss fight, I had to purposely collect one of every ability in order to reach the 4th and final phase of this fight, which I was not fucking prepared for. I had no hearts left, and at this point, got a game over. So, I had to do the entire boss rush again, all those phases of bullshit, and collect one of every ability and then hit him to get a game fucking end. First of all, thanks for introducing a mechanic of the game you've literally never introduced before at any point, and thanks for the fucking shit-eating sucker punch the boss gives as soon as he leaves his 3rd phase. You're left to your own devices at the last few phases of the game. And after all that, the final end credits roll, which basically just reminded me of this.
Congratulations! 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 Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Congratulations!
Thank you all.
So, for my final thoughts, the game is just a little strange. From what it sounds like, the characters speak in a made-up language, and it's a little weird, but nothing to ruin a review over. The game is very gimmicky, and the ability I use the most is hands down the time stop one. It really just lets you catch your breath in stressful situations, and really just to clear rooms or cheese your way through it. The game really will catch you with your pants down when you're most likely not ready for it, and honestly, Blinx just really does have some things I don't like about it. The controls and camera are for one, and they have extra sweepers in earlier and later levels that really just don't do anything and are just cosmetics. Gives you no real advantage. Don't be fooled by this like I was in the earlier levels by buying the sweeper with a spiral in it. It literally does nothing but besides being a cosmetic. I will say the graphics and game music aren't bad. Cutscenes don't look hideous for 2002 and they're okay. The music I can say without a doubt I really like. The boss fight music is kind of catchy even though I've gotten tired of hearing it at some parts. Sad to see the collectibles are kind of a waste and just an end game or post game thing, and all you really get is just some concept art and pictures of the developers, which can be neat. I'm not saying that I'm not interested in seeing the people who made the game, but I felt like the final sweeper is kind of just a grind, and if you really want it, and by then it's just a waste because you've already gotten all the collectibles. I want to like Blinx, but his controls and his creation to rival such popular mascots was kind of his downfall. He did get a second game released in 2004, but from what I remember, I don't think I've ever beat it. Nor is it on the Xbox One store, so I have no way of playing it. But if it were to ever get on the store, I will dedicate my weekend of my time just to see how it improved, if even. I won't lie and say that I didn't have fun, because I did. Even with how frustrating it is, if you have $10 to spare, then by all means, pick it up and come back to this video and let me know what you think. Do you agree with some things that I said or not? Let me know down in the comments. Alright, so here are the credits of the game. I want to thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video. I really do plan on uploading a lot and making more similar videos similar to this one, with shitposts thrown up every now and again. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up or subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. Now, I'm just gonna leave the credits roll and give credit where credit is due. Thanks.